Welcome to the Bowls Hour, brought to you by Somerset Retirement Villages and Dynasty Apparel. Today we're going to talk to Tayla Bruce about the Burnside Under-26 singles, and also Kevin Smith about his role as para-lead for Bowls New Zealand in his last few months. First though, I'm going to have a chat about the upcoming National Intercentre, which has been held this weekend at Browns Bay. It should be pretty good, to be fair. It's going to go over 2 days at the Browns Bay Bowling Club, and if you have a look on the Bowls New Zealand website, there is something called the National Intercentre Final Preview and Results Hub, which is where you can find the preview and the results for the National Intercentre. It's going to be a good competition this year. Due to COVID disruptions, it sort of reverted back to the system we used to have, where there are qualifiers through zones or regions. So on the men's side of the draw, the competing centres will be Auckland, Bay of Plenty, Hawke's Bay, Marlborough, Southland and Wellington, remembering that Southland is the defending title holder for that one. And on the other side, it's Central Otago, Gisborne East Coast, Thames Valley, Nelson, Wellington and North Harbour. They're all pretty strong teams. I was going to try and call a favourite, but I don't want to. I think it's going to be a pretty tough competition on both sides, and because it's essentially a round robin system, there's no post section, no semi-final and final. It's just going to come down to the team that can grind the other teams down more and over the fours, pairs and singles. I do think though that Southland, who are the defending champions in the men, and Nelson, the defending champions in the women, will go in feeling like they can certainly do it and pretty confident. And my only other thought was North Harbour and the women's side is essentially on their home turf at the Browns Bay Bowling Club, so they should have a lot of support, and it'll be interesting to see how they go. We will publish results on the website and on our Facebook page, and there's also going to be some live streaming, which should be good fun. We're going to live stream on day 1 2 rounds. We're going to live stream the 12:15 round and the 3:30 round, and on day 2 we're going to live stream the entire day from 9 a.m. through to whenever it finishes, which is 2 rounds. So there's no live streaming in the morning on Saturday because that's when things are going to be set up, but from then onwards it will be live streamed and covered on the Bowls New Zealand YouTube channel, Facebook and website. That's pretty much all I've got to say at the beginning. I'm looking forward to the rest of the show, and we're going to have a chat to Tayla and Kevin. So on that note, coming up next we talk to Tayla Bruce here on the Bowls Hour. Welcome back to the Bowls Hour, brought to you by Somerset Retirement Villages and Dynasty Apparel. And now we have Tayla Bruce on the line, fresh off a weekend of tournament directoring, I think. Tayla, how are you feeling?
Yeah, I'm okay, thanks. I'm actually a little bit run down this week, so a wee bit blocked up, but feeling good otherwise.
Oh, that's good news. So yeah, I thought we've had you on the show before to talk about the Com Games and your career, but I thought we'd go for a different tack this week because Burnside's just run an under-26 singles competition, which is part of the Bowls New Zealand Summer of Bowls calendar thing. So I thought I'd just like to pick your brain a bit on that, Tayla. So can you tell us, what is it?
Right, so it's a mixed singles event, and players must be aged under 26 years old to play, and they have to be a current financial member of a bowling club affiliated to a national organisation. So it's a really great tournament. We get some really high-quality youth players. It used to be purely invitational, but that changed quite a few years ago, and now anyone can submit an entry, and players for the field are selected from the entries that we receive. So there's always more entries and spots available. So there's always a waiting list, which is great.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just a fantastic event, and it runs over 3 days with section play going for a day and a half, and then post-section starting in the afternoon of the second day and finals day on the very last day.
Oh, that sounds good. Can you tell us, do you know how long it's been going for, Tayla?
I do. So it started actually at Elmwood Bowling Club in 2004. So it's been, it's had quite a long history, and Elmwood ran it from 2004 till 2009. I actually played in that last year in 2009 when it was at Elmwood. And they ran a great event, and it was, a huge credit to them for starting it all up. But when they decided to not run it anymore, Bowls Canterbury were asked to take it on, and they used Burnside as the green.
Mm-hmm.
And when they ran it for 3 years, in 2010 till 2012, but I think it added a lot of work to their program, so they decided not to run it anymore either. And that's when Burnside took it on for themselves, and we've
thank
been
God for
organising it
Burnside.
since. Yeah, definitely. We've had it since 2013. So, it's the 13th year it's been at Burnside, and 10th year we've run it as our own tournament.
That's brilliant. And you said you'd played in it in 2009. So did you consistently play in it when you were eligible to do so?
Yes, so I started in 2009, and then I'm only 2 years out of it. So I played in it for 10 years, I believe.
And how did you
from memory.
Yeah, how did you find that sort of decade of competing? What's it like as a tournament?
When I first started it, obviously I was a very new bowler, so I was getting smashed constantly, and I was always the bottom of the field. But you've got to start somewhere, and eventually in 2015 I actually won the event. So I was the second female ever to win the event, which is quite special. So, I think that just shows how much players can develop over these youth years, and how much more skilled we can get during these tournaments and over these years. So, yeah, I absolutely love playing in it, and it's hard to be now on the sideline, but I'm ready to help in a different way and be involved in it in a different way.
Yeah, for sure. And you speak about it being a mixed event, which is really cool. And I can't think of many singles events off the top of my head that are mixed. Does that add a different dynamic to the event when it's all sort of mixed up? Anyone plays anyone?
100%. I absolutely loved that it was mixed. And I know the players still now really love it because it's just so different. You get to play players that you wouldn't normally be able to play. And I think it just creates a really good benchmark for playing against your peers, whether they're, by being mixed, it doesn't really matter who they are, what age they are, what gender they are. It's still playing against your peers and seeing where you're at against them. So I think that's really valuable.
And do you find I run the indoor, or there's an indoor equivalent, right? It's called the Young Guns that we run, and it's quite a social event because it's that age group of people. Do you find it's quite a social event as well? So you go there for the competition, obviously, but do the people hang around at the club afterwards and
do they what? Oh my goodness, yes, it is such a social event, and again, probably why so many players come back again every single year. The friendships you make are really special, and I've still got lifelong friends from playing in these kinds of events. They stick around a bit on the Friday night, so Burnside put on pizzas and fish and chips in the evening to encourage players to stick around and socialise. So they hang out on the Friday evening, even sometimes the Thursday as well, when they're rolling up and seeing each other again. And then the Saturday night is always very social, and they put on pizzas and they all hang around and have a bit of a fine session and just enjoy each other's company, really.
Yeah, I'd hang around if you gave me pizzas and fish and chips. It sounds like a good plan.
Totally.
So we'll move on a little bit to this year's event that we've just had run over the weekend, and there's live streaming available as well if anyone's listening and wants to check it out on the Bowls New Zealand website and the Burnside website. AJ embedded it there, so Bowls New Zealand was there live streaming it. It's good to watch. But can you just talk us through this year's event, Tayla, and maybe your role in it? Because you said before you've moved on from being a player to whatever your title is for the event this year.
Yeah. So this year I was the tournament director, which is the first time I've ever been a tournament director at all, and let alone at this event. So that was quite exciting. And I've previously been in the committee. So I was in the tournament committee last year, where we obviously make decisions around the event and select the players for the event, facilitate the draw and all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I've been involved in that, and I did a lot of marking last year. But this year, being the tournament director, I was involved in that, keeping things rolling, doing a little bit of marking, and I was also doing a bit of commentating. So it was quite a lot of variety this time that I was involved in, and I really enjoyed it. So that was really awesome. it all ran really smoothly. So my mum, Tayla Bruce, she is the main organiser of the event. She does an incredible job and spends hours and hours on it. And I think that's why people love coming as well, because it's so well run and there's so many great sponsors as well that come on board. So, yeah, it's a small committee, but Mum leads it, and then we've got a few others from the club that are involved that have a lot of experience running tournaments. And, yeah, it takes a wee group of us to get it off the ground, but I think it's all worth it in the end.
Absolutely. Did you have to have your arm twisted to come onto the committee, Tayla, or did you volunteer yourself as the tournament director?
I didn't volunteer myself. Another experienced bowling club member was approached to do the job, and he suggested me instead. So
you can thank him.
I thought, okay, well, I'll give it a go, and he was supporting me. So it was nice that, he was there if I needed it, but he just thought, I guess, for the event, it's nice to have an ex-player and someone that's still in. Well, I'm not really youth anymore, but I guess I'm still a young player.
I still consider myself youth. so you can.
I like to think I'm still somewhat youth. And someone like that involved. So I was quite chuffed to be asked, and gave it a go.
Absolutely, it's pretty cool. A cool sort of evolution along. So this year, can you tell us? I've got two questions actually. It's a two-part one because I'd like to just clarify. It goes into sections, doesn't it? So you qualify, is it into flights or whatever you call it, into sort of... Can you talk us through the post-section system and then tell us who won the bits and pieces, please, Tayla?
Yes, I can. So we have 4 sections for section play, and the top 2 from those sections go into the first division. The 3rd and 4th go into second division. 5th and 6th place go into 3rd division, and 7th and 8th place go into the 4th division.
Yeah.
So depending on obviously where you finish in your section play, you get split into your divisions. From there, the divisions are completely redrawn again from the overall sort of success of the players. So say for Division 1, you'd be put in whether you're 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th type placing against all the other people that are in Division 1.
Yep.
And then 1 would verse 8, 2 would verse 7, 3 would verse 6 type idea for post-section. So it's redrawn, obviously, and then it's knockout from post-section time. So you go straight into the quarterfinals of your section, and that means half the field are knocked out by Saturday evening. And then it's semi-finals and finals on the final day, where Division 1 and 2 play their final to 21 points, whereas the Division 3 and 4 play their final to 15 points by the end.
Brilliant.
And this year, our overall winner was Taylor Horn from Cambridge Central Bowling Club, and it's the second time he's won it, which was very exciting for him, and he won it in 2020 and now in 2022. So, it was a pretty exceptional result by him.
Yeah, and that was it his last year as an eligible player? Did I read that somewhere?
Yes, it is his last year. He really made it count.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good. Do you get many... What was my other question? So on that finals day, what's the crowd like? Do people come out to watch the final day of the singles?
We do get quite a crowd, actually. And I think as well we get quite an audience through the live streaming, which helps too. But a lot of the players come back and support. Like, again, I said with the social aspect of the event, players don't want to just leave and go and do their own thing on the last day. A lot of them come back to see their mates still playing and to catch up with their friends. So we do get all the players coming back to support that finals day, which is brilliant.
Absolutely.
And, a lot of their families come. Some of them travel with their families, so we have a lot of their supporters coming along and watching on the sidelines. So, and of course, we always have our club members that are interested in the event because of our involvement as well.
For sure. So if Joe Bloggs is listening to this and they're under 26, how do they go about putting their name in for consideration for the Burnside Singles next year? And was it going to be held on the same dates?
So it's always held in the middle weekend of the school holidays at this time of year.
Yep.
So the date can sometimes vary depending on when the school holidays are, but it's always that middle weekend. So if you're interested, block that weekend out. And they call for entries, or I don't know what timing at the top of my head, but it'll be next year. They put a call out for entries. There's an under 26 Burnside Singles Facebook group that you can always request to join, and that's where some information is posted. And you can put in an entry. The email's all there, and I think information also gets sent out to clubs as well if there's youth players that want to enter. So you can always get in touch with your centre or your club to find out if they've heard any communication about how to put in an entry.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's all open to enter, and just to make sure if you do, you put your achievements, because as a committee, we do really look at the achievements that players put down on the entry form for us to decide whether they make the field or if they're on the waiting list. So, we have committee members that might not know all the youth players in the country, so that's always really important.
That must be a challenging task, Tayla, to have to whittle a field down. Yeah,
it is. It is a really tough job, and that's why there's a group of us, because it's a hard decision to decide who makes the field and who doesn't. And you always feel bad that there are people that miss out. But, that the waiting list is so valuable, and quite often there are, especially with COVID the last 2 years, there have been last-minute people that have had to pull out. We've had to call on people on the wait list. So even if you don't make it straight away,
still a chance.
There's still a chance you could get called on. Yeah,
absolutely. Well, thank you very much for having a chat to us about the under-26 singles. I know more about it now, which is good, although certainly not eligible to participate, despite claiming that I'm a youth, which is fine. So I'll move on to the bonus question now. So we ask a bonus question every week. I can't remember what we asked you last time. And usually it's food-related, but I've had a bit of criticism from Erin for the food-related bonus questions. So this is quite a specific question, and I think most people can relate to it. So, like pre-dishwasher days, or if your house doesn't have a dishwasher, there's usually two people who do the dishes. You've got the washer and the dryer of the dishes. Which one do you prefer to be?
I prefer to wash.
A washer.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
fair. Yeah, and I don't have the luxury of a dishwasher, so that's a very relevant question for me. But we kind of get out of drying because we just use a drying rack. So.
Oh, that's clever.
There you go.
I'll have to keep that in mind.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thanks for talking to us, Tayla. Up now we have Kevin Smith here on the Bowls Hour. Welcome back to the Bowls Hour, brought to you by Somerset Retirement Villages and Dynasty Apparel. And I now have Kevin Smith on the line. How are you, Kevin?
Excellent, Alex. How are you doing?
I'm good, and I'm glad you're well too. It's always a positive. I thought we'd get you on the show. We've had you on before, I think maybe at the beginning of your role with Bowls New Zealand as the para lead, and it's been 8 months now, I reckon. So I thought maybe we could just talk about how the last 8 months have been for you and sort of what you've been up to.
Yeah, certainly, Alex. It's thanks for the opportunity to talk about the very important world of para bowls. I've been a very busy time. I've had the pleasure of working with all of the disability sector, with the physically disabled group, the para bowls group, with the New Zealand Blind Women Bowls Association, with New Zealand Deaf Bowls, but also extending further with associated groups. For example, the Canterbury Down Syndrome group, we're organising a bowls morning for their members coming up in November, and also working with special needs classes, being involved with the Halberg Games, and so trying to work right across the sector, but significantly working with the lead groups, the para bowls, blind and deaf bowling groups, trying to work towards a potential merger where the groups might join together and work with Bowls New Zealand under one umbrella. And so that's been one of the key tasks of the year. Those discussions are still taking place, and members still need to consider those in the different sectors there, because, the perception will be that we strengthened, that those sectors will be strengthened by by being more closely supported by Bowls New Zealand. And so that's a big part of the work.
For
So
sure.
I guess I've also been privileged. I got a chance to go to the Commonwealth Games as the eyes for Gerald Brewers in the Commonwealth Games B2 and B3 mixed pairs. So that took a whole month of my 8 months, really. It was amazing. Yeah.
Actually, can we very quickly talk about that, Kevin, before we go more on to your role? So you did go to the Com Games as the eyes for Gerald. How did you find that experience? What was that like for you?
Oh, it was an amazing experience. I mean, it was a very privileged position to be part of the whole New Zealand team, but the whole Bowls New Zealand team as well, which was very inclusive of the whole para team. We were all one team, and to play at Leamington Spa, which was the headquarters, was an amazing experience. The grandstands, the constant music that was there, the noise of the local countries cheering for their teams was there, but you just forgot about it, got on and played. And of course, there's the tricky tracks that everybody saw on the TV, the 12-second greens and the inconsistencies of those, but they were the same for everybody. And whilst we didn't achieve as much as we wanted to, because we did have illness challenges right at the start of the tournament within the para group, and so our preparation was hindered a bit. So we didn't get off to a racing start, but certainly the blindies that I was working with in particular, finished strongly by beating England on our last round, and they went on the next day and won the bronze medal. So we were pretty excited to have beaten them the day before and played really fully to our potential. So we didn't get off on the best step, but it was an incredible honour to represent our country.
How did you find the other countries and the crowds and stuff with the New Zealand team? Was there a bit of support there?
Yes, there was. There was some great Kiwi travelling supporters there, and of course the wider New Zealand team, the Bowls team, were there supporting all of the players. If you weren't playing, you were there supporting other players, and so there was a good number of spectators supporting the Kiwis. But of course, we were vastly outnumbered for those supporting England, Ireland, Scotland, and Wales. But in some ways, it was great when we played England. One of the best measures for us, we got out to about a 10-3 lead, I think. And of course, you won't be surprised, it just shut the crowd up. And so their supporters who had been noisy were quiet. And so. I guess it happens in every other sport as well, doesn't it? That if you're playing away from home, if you can shut the crowd up, you take the crowd in for
always a good sign, yeah.
It's a good sign.
Absolutely.
There's one story I do want to share about Parabowls, Alex, if I may.
Yep.
That lots of people won't know about, and some people might have seen him in the background, but there's a bowler from the England team who's in a wheelchair. He has 2 amputations of both legs, and he only has one arm. And I want to talk about this man, and will become evident why I want to talk about this man called Craig Bowler. So it's easy for people to Google Craig Bowler, but he's a remarkable example of somebody participating in lawn bowls, this wonderful game that we've got, when he's sitting there with one arm. So he's in a wheelchair, he's got electric chair running up and down the green. He stands to bowl on his artificial legs, and he bowls from between his legs. And if anybody saw him play, he had a red strip down the middle of his bowl. He was a very noisy young man. If he played a big bowl, it was boom, would bellow out. He or his teammates in the pairs, and they won the bronze medal, I think, in the para division of the men's pairs. But Craig's story, when people Google Craig, is an inspiring story of how he came to bowls. And he shares the story, that's why I'm sharing it now.
Yeah.
He shares it very publicly because it's around mental health issues. Craig talks quite openly, and it's in the literature, all the media. He tried to take his own life by climbing up a pylon and threw himself into the wires. And he was critically ill, of course. And in his rehabilitation, he met his future wife, who was a healthcare assistant there, and they now have 2 bonny children of about 7 and 9 years of age. And it turned all of his life around. And then he discovered bowls. And if anybody watches him playing bowls, you'll see he's a very talented player, and it's really helped his whole life. And so he likes to tell his story that bowls has turned my life around. Here I am with one arm, struggling in lots of areas, but living a full life, and bowls is a critical part of that. It's a great story, a dramatic story, yes, but a great story about anybody can play lawn bowls, and that's what lawn bowls is. It's an inclusive sport.
Absolutely.
It's for everybody. You know, people probably get sick of hearing me talk about New Zealand blind bowls, and their ethos is don't let what you can't do stop you from doing what you can. And it really goes right across the sector, doesn't it?
Yeah, they're good. That's a good thing to live by, I think. Thank you for sharing that, Kevin. I think that's valuable. And we'll segue sort of away from the Com Games now and back to the Parabowl space in New Zealand and your last few months in the role. Is there any thing that sort of pops out to you that you're proud of, or particularly enjoyed being part of in the last little while?
Well, I think it's about the continual spreading of the messages for Parabowls, and encouraging people in clubs everywhere that, you know, asking the question, it's a bit rhetorical really, asking the question, what is your club doing to welcome all people to be part of your community? You know, if somebody comes in who's a little different, they might be in a wheelchair, they might be blind, they may well be deaf, and they want to play bowls. How welcoming are you? And so it's quite, you know, I'm not backward in coming forward. I try and do it politely and gently to people, but I challenge clubs to think about what they can do. And it's been great fun, I have to tell you, that you know, there are 3 or 4 real standout examples of people who have clubs have embraced people, but new members that have come along. You know, there's a guy in Browns Bay who has physical challenges, and when we were training for the Commonwealth Games, he came to see me about how could he deliver bowls. He had significant balance problems, for example, and his hands were all clawed up, and he was having challenging holding a bowl. So I just did a little bit of work with this man and helped him establish a fixed stance delivery. It's about adapting things for what people can do. And anyway, long story short, he loves playing his bowls. He already started a bit. He didn't quite know how to help him. We did a little bit of work together. He's gone back to the club, and it's a bit ironic, but he very recently, in the last few months, finished runner-up in the handicap pairs at the club.
Oh, lovely.
So this is a guy that's just started, and he's succeeding. I mean, there's a lovely story, Alex, that I'm really pleased about as well, of the messages we get out. I was asked to go and do an evening presentation at the West Melton Bowling Club out in the country of Christchurch, and it was about how was the experience at the Commonwealth Games, and I talked about that, and I told them about Craig Bowler, and a lady came up to me after the event, and she said, and I told them, of course, about blind bowls and what particular role I had, and she said, I've got a sister who lives in Dunedin who's blind, and I reckon she'd be interested in playing bowls. Well, slowed me down. I've now since talked to her. I'm going down to Dunedin in the next month or so, and we're going to introduce her to a couple of other people in the blind bowls community, and she's a whole new member, and so she's really excited about having an opportunity to participate in the community, to participate in our sport. You know, and it's those examples, and there are other examples, but I won't bore you with all the details, but there's other examples of new members seeming to be coming out of the woodwork. We've got 2, I will tell you a little bit, there are 2 totally blind new players in Auckland who one is a working man, still working. I don't want to describe his professional role, and another has just retired, but both are B1 players, and they want to play lawn bowls. There's a brand new player in Christchurch out in the Rangiora Club area, and he had trauma a couple of years ago from an accident, and he's just getting a chair to use that he can use on the bowling green, because he's very excited about playing lawn bowls. So these people they're all coming out and they all want to participate in our sport.
That's brilliant.
It's great fun to see this, people living their lives fully. is a privilege to watch.
Absolutely, I entirely agree, and it is a sport, like you say, that literally anyone can play, and I suppose it's our responsibility as members to help enable anyone who wants to play it, Kev.
I think, Alex, that you use a key word in there. It is about enabling, and that's what club members and other players can help people, is to enable others to play the sport. What can you do? What can we do to help them? And it might be just a listening ear for starters. It might be just to help them work out a little subtle technique, work with the coaches of clubs to help them. How can they, with the challenges they face, deliver a bowl and learn how to do it consistently? But equally, it's about enabling people to be part of the social life of our clubs and our community. Invite people to come and sit with you, invite them in, join in with them. Yeah.
Absolutely, and I think there's a lot to be gained on both sides for that. We'll just segue again a little bit, Kev, to we've got the Nationals this year. In the last couple of years, we've had some very specific national events for from B1 all through to B8. There's been, I think, 5 different national events run alongside the Somerset Nationals, and this year it's a little bit different, isn't it? Can you just talk us through what the situation is, please?
Certainly. Well, as people will be aware, we've had the B1 to B4, the Blind Nationals, and the B5 to B8 Para Nationals have appeared alongside the singles and pairs at the Bowls New Zealand Somerset Nationals. And equally, those different groups have had their own classification nationals. They've had their own events. COVID got in the way, of course, and so that's been challenging to play those, and so that's like for ourselves as well. But this year, it is going to be the Somerset Open Disabled section. And so this is now an open event. The classifications don't come into play. B1 to 4, B5 to B8 don't come into play. So anybody who has a medical reason that inhibits them playing bowls, that prevents them from playing bowls in open company, and they have to use other supports or other devices, for example, even bowling arms, for example. People who can't bend over and deliver a bowl, somebody with a bowling arm can play in the Open Disability Nationals if they have a medical reason for using a bowling arm. New Zealand Deaf Bowls are very excited the letter we got back from New Zealand Deaf Bowls, they're very excited, been waiting for years to be included into the disability bowls of Bowls New Zealand. So whilst there's been some mixed responses, some people are challenged about the level playing field concept between a blind bowler, a wheelchair bowler, or somebody with amputation, or a deaf bowler, or somebody with an intellectual disability. Somebody talked to me just yesterday that they know somebody who's in the Down syndrome group who's very keen to play bowls. Could they come and play this? Yes, they can. Can the bowlers with a bowling arm come and play? But I think people need to remember, what is the Nationals all about? The Nationals, Open Nationals, Alex, you'll be aware, people go to Nationals for all sorts of reasons. They go for the camaraderie, they go for the meeting up with their old mates, the social times together with people they've seen off and on for years. And so one of the really exciting things that we are also hearing back, some of the community in the wider disability area are excited that we're going to meet other people in the disability world playing bowls and playing against each other. And there's also an open company. Sometimes you might have results that are quite large. The results are, big scores. But on the day, anybody can beat anybody. Yeah. And we see that in sport all the time. And then there's the whole third part of that is people also get better by playing against perhaps slightly better players. And so rather than just playing their own classifications all of the time, this is a one-off opportunity once a year to come to the Somerset Open Disabled Nationals and compete against a much broader community. Should be a load of fun.
Absolutely. And the individual organisations are still running their own nationals, aren't they, Kev? So it's not like there's no opportunity for them to compete.
I mean, it's coming up in November is the Disabled Lawn Bowls Association group are having their nationals straight away. New Zealand Deaf Bowls are having their nationals in Taranaki at Labour Weekend. and the New Zealand Blind Lawn Bowls, we just had a board meeting on Sunday, and we're hoping to plan. We're hoping to plan a national event for the New Zealand Blind Lawn Bowling Association members, probably April, May next year.
Brilliant.
So those different groups can still have those as well as coming along. It's another whole event to play in the Open Disabled Nationals. Yeah,
that sounds pretty cool. And can we just quickly talk about the New Zealand Deaf? What's their organisation title? I don't want to get it wrong.
Yeah, so they're called New Zealand Deaf Bowls, is what they're called.
Cool.
And I mean, even there's a photo that we're working with them to support them, and that's part of my role, I guess, is to keep the profile of the wider disability sector bowls high. There's a photo of their New Zealand team that competed in the World Championships in Christchurch. I think that's off the top of my head, 2019, and then COVID got in the way. They're off to the World Championships in Scotland in November next year. And so their criteria for anybody that knows anybody to participate in New Zealand Deaf Bowls, 55% roughly, it's 55 decibels, hearing impairment needs to occur to be a member of New Zealand Deaf Bowls. But, anybody can contact them via myself, Kevin at bowlsnewzealand.co.nz, of course, or just send the queries through, and we can help in any of the disability sectors, linking people together. So the singles and pairs is going to be fun. That's what I just forgot about that, Alex, at the Nationals, because this year we will have some, and I refer to people as blindies because they allow me to do that. They talk about themselves as blindies. The blindies could play with a deaf player. Deaf player could play with somebody in a wheelchair. If there's other intellectually disabled or other groups of people playing, they could play with somebody else in the pairs. So we have a real mix of this community. So that, I think the pairs competition, well, it's all going to be fun, but I think the pairs is going to be a great community event.
Yeah, that's pretty exciting, really. I'm excited to see how it goes, and I hope that it goes from strength to strength as well. The proof will be in the pudding, of course, but I think it's going to be a pretty neat little initiative there. Thanks for talking us through that, Kev, and I've blinked and we've been talking for a while, so I'll move on to the last part of the chat now, where we always ask a bonus question at the end of one of these, and sometimes it's got very little to do with bowls. And I was talking before, I've been criticised recently for having quite a lot of food related questions, and it's fair enough. I think we're up to like episode 37 or 38, and probably 30 of the questions have been food related. So I've decided not to go a food related one now, and instead I'll paint the picture for you. So it's in a world where there isn't a dishwasher.
Right.
Not a mechanical dishwasher or whatever. So usually it takes two people to do the dishes after dinner or lunch, whatever it is. And there's the washing person and then the one who does the drying of the dishes. And my question for you is, would you rather be a washer or a dryer?
Oh, wow. Would I rather be a washer or a dryer? No, I'd rather be the washer. Drying's too fiddly. You've got to get the detail, you've got to get all the bits, etc. I remember when I was a kid in a family of 11 children, and our cutlery drawer was a mess. And so if you were the dryer, you threw all the cutlery into the air, you shook it all around the teacup, and you tipped it into the cutlery drawer. Isn't that a horrible story?
And said, oh, that's close enough.
Yeah. So I'll be the washer, not the dryer.
That seems very reasonable, Kevin. And thank you very much for coming on to the show. I wish you all the best for whatever's coming up in the future, and we'll see you at the Somerset Nationals.
Thanks, Alex. Bye-bye now.
Thanks, Kev. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for joining us for this episode of the Bowls Hour, the show for all things bowls. If you enjoy listening to this podcast, remember to share it around. We can be found on Facebook every week from 7 p.m, as well as Spotify, YouTube, Apple Music, the Bowls New Zealand website, or wherever you get your podcasts. Tune in next week for more talk about everything bowls. Until then, roll on.